ever see Robert Mueller's report?
We are in the Mueller report season now.
Mueller is coming.
Is this Mueller report coming to an end?
The Mueller report.
Is there a smoking gun?
High alert for the Mueller report.
Will we, the American people, ever see Robert Mueller's report?
Special counsel Robert Mueller's report could drop at any moment.
Do you think this delay is a sign that Mueller is still working on the report?
President Trump calling for an end to the Mueller probe.
Bob Mueller.
Bob Mueller.
Robert Swan Mueller III.
It's here. Today's the day. The thing you, me, these cameramen sitting outside the special counsel's office and the world have been waiting for. Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election is finished. Late this afternoon, the Department of Justice informed us that the report, yes, that report, has been delivered to Attorney General William Barr. Now, this is the part where you think I would tell you what's in it, but the delivery of the report isn't the same as the public release of the report. As of this evening, Trump himself hadn't seen it. Congressional Democrats and some Republicans immediately called for the full report to be made public. But how much of the report itself will ever be released remains a mystery, at least until the leaks start. And the letter Barr sent to Congress today is actually all he has to do. He covered the things the special counsel statute requires him to say, that the investigation is concluded and that there was never an instance where Mueller tried to do something so inappropriate that the DOJ refused to let him. Congress, state and federal prosecutors in New York, and others will continue their investigations. Reportedly, Mueller will not file any more indictments, but that doesn't mean there aren't still some sealed indictments from Mueller's team that have been filed, but not posted publicly. As for Trump himself, he's at Mar-a-Lago with the White House lawyers. We'll find out sooner or later whether Mueller thinks the president broke the law, setting up the impeachment fight so many people are hoping for. So yeah, we are mostly still guessing, which weirdly made me think that now would be a good moment to take a look at the last Mueller report. You may not remember this, but in 2014, Robert Mueller was hired by the NFL to investigate the matter of Ray Rice, the Baltimore Ravens running back who brutally beat his fiancée in a casino elevator. Obviously, Ray Rice isn't Donald Trump, and the facts of these cases have nothing in common. But if you want to know how Mueller thinks and what to expect from his report on Trump, you could do a lot worse than reading this surprisingly brisk 100-page report. Now, the NFL hired Mueller to answer just two questions. Did any league employee watch or receive the video showing Ray Rice hitting Janae Palmer before its release by TMZ in 2014? And what other evidence was obtained by, provided to, or available to the league in the course of its investigation as it tried to decide how to discipline Rice? What comes through immediately is that Mueller isn't a big topic sentence guy. He doesn't lead with some sort of sweeping conclusion or declare anything that stops you in your tracks. Instead, he moves slowly and thoroughly through the facts. But Mueller's not just thorough, he's conspicuously thorough, like a mathlete who just has to show you her work. Mueller writes in this that his team interviewed Roger Goodell and 50 NFL employees to try to figure out if anyone had seen the video before TMZ posted it. They collected millions of documents, emails, and texts. They looked for the digital signatures of the video on hundreds of computers to try to get to the bottom of an Associated Press story that claims someone within the NFL acknowledged receipt of the elevator video in a voicemail months before TMZ posted it. They created a database of 1,583 calls placed from the NFL's main numbers. They traced nearly 1,000 of those calls by hand to try to figure out who left the voicemail. They never actually solved that puzzle. The second big takeaway is that Mueller pretty much stayed within the confines of the investigation. His focus on the two questions of who had access to the video and what other evidence the league had with respect to Rice's conduct were pretty much the entirety of the report. This is crucial to what we may see in the special counsel's report. Remember, Rod Rosenstein's assignment to Mueller was to conduct a, quote, full and thorough investigation of the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. There's a lot you could look into with Donald Trump, but just as we've seen Mueller farm out non-Russia related criminal matters to the Southern District of New York, we should expect his report to be very, very focused on election-related conduct. Third, Mueller's not afraid to name names. While the NFL was his client and it was agreed that the report would become public, Mueller doesn't pull punches. He even lists the things the league could have done if it really wanted to get to the bottom of what happened in that elevator. such as contacting the police officers who responded to the incident, or the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, or, contacting Rice himself, none of which the League did during their investigation. Lastly, as we've seen with the so-called speaking indictments that have come out from the special counsel, the report is eminently readable. It's detailed but not jargony, it's thorough but not dull, so there's hope that if we ever actually see the special counsel report, and that remains a very big if, it'll be exactly what it should be. A document every citizen will be able to read, understand, and form opinions from. Even with today's delivery that actually reveals very little, the special counsel's report is the ultimate breaking news story, and the usual rules apply. We know far less today than we will tomorrow, and as we've been saying since May 17th, 2017 when Mueller got the job, speculation isn't fact. But we know some really important things already. The investigation led to the indictment of 34 people, including 25 Russians. Some of the president's closest advisors, Michael Cohen, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, are charged with crimes that carry jail time. And Russia made multiple attempts to sabotage our democracy at its most important moment. So regardless of political sides, it's safe to call a report that tells us those facts a success.
Almost exactly a week after shootings in 2 Christchurch mosques,
Keep moving.
the Muslim call to prayer was broadcast across New Zealand, and the country held a 2-minute-long moment of silence. It was an unprecedented gesture of national unity.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah.
I stood in this mosque and saw hatred and rage in the eyes of the terrorist. The world can see in us an example of love and unity.
Yeah, we needed your support and you were there for us. Thank you.
We're here today to announce charges in the largest college admissions scam ever prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
When the FBI went public with Operation Varsity Blues and exposed a network of wealthy families caught cheating on college admissions, prosecutors confirmed what most people already guessed, that when it comes to getting into the best schools, there's one system for people who have money and one for everyone else. Yale was one of the schools implicated, and the news broke as their students were out on spring break. Vice News caught up with a group of wealthier students in D.C. and sat down with a group of lower-income students who stayed on Yale's campus in New Haven.
So what did you think when the news broke about this cheating scandal?
Comical.
Yeah, it's probably the funniest thing that's happened this year, but the gravity of it is something that I haven't seen almost ever.
I think at first I was very oh, I'm so unsurprised. And then the next day I was like, no, I'm actually really angry. I think the anger took a while because it was so funny
It's been a strange experience because the news broke when we started spring break. So you go from being completely immersed in Yale and the culture and your friends, and then being back at home and then hearing about your school through like the lens of a news outlet or something else.
I think everyone's kind of aware that people are pulling some shenanigans to get in, and I guess the only newsworthy part about this is it's particularly outrageous, but it's not categorically different than a lot of the so-called legal ways that people game the system. So,
have any of you benefited from legacy status?
I have. Yeah, my sister went to Yale.
Yeah, I'm a legacy, so.
Do you ever feel as legacies that either other people think you don't deserve to be at Yale, or you even find yourself internally wondering if you really deserve your spot?
I've not personally felt that. So honestly, if people treat you worse because you got a massive advantage to get in, I'm also totally fine with that.
I think we've all been in a class or two where you realize someone's just not up to par and you start having questions about what's going on. Oh boy. And then, you start figuring things out, like they're extremely wealthy, they went to great prep schools, their parents, a lot of those, just my very small sliver of experience are legacy students, which we have a high number of. They have much higher chance of getting in than regular students.
I did look into my own application and found that there were references to me being a legacy, but they also referenced that I had legacy at other colleges. I theoretically had 4 relatives who went to Princeton, and I was waitlisted and rejected.
When you do talk to wealthier friends or classmates, what do they say about this whole system?
I think everyone acknowledges that it's kind of fucked up. I don't think anyone thinks that this is okay, but they're okay because it's benefiting them.
I get a lot of friends that will then go, yes, my experience, but look at that person that owns this or that, or is wealthier than me. Because we have people who are middle class or upper middle class, but then we have people who are the top, the 1%. Those people, it's a lot of pointing towards that.
Do you think that there's a moral difference between photoshopping your kid onto a sports team or bribing a soccer coach and buying a building ahead of your kid applying to school?
I think there is a moral difference between perhaps donations versus bribery, just because you can give a donation to the school and the school benefits. It might pay for other kids' tuition, it might pay for new programs or something that can benefit people. Bribery doesn't go to the school. I think donations have a benefit.
At the end of the day, there's the reason why these students got in, whether it was buying a building or photoshopping your face onto a water polo team, was because of money. Right. Neither one of them got in because of their merit.
I see no difference. You're still bribing your way in.
Do you see a difference, a moral difference between paying someone to take your SAT and ACT or paying many, many thousands more to have a private tutor?
There's probably a difference, maybe a difference in degree, if not in kind. But in terms of, is this meritocratic and is this fair? Did you, quote unquote, deserve to get in? I don't see a huge difference. Both of them are unfair to people who don't have those resources.
And it's also frustrating, I'm sure we've all gotten the, in high school, oh, you got in because you're XYZ, affirmative action, isn't that so great? And then never talking about affirmative action for the rich, which is just such a real thing.
How does wealth affect campus life here?
It's when we're not doing campus activities that I feel the wealth gap. Being here during spring break is always a time when I'm kind of people are good at hiding their wealth, I think, until they're not. And so spring break is an interesting time when you just go on Instagram and you're oh, you're in this private island. I see a butler in the background of this photo. Oh, cool.
I write pretty extensively for the newspaper, and it's kind of this all-engrossing activity that takes up a lot of time. And because of that, it really prohibits some of the students who have to work the multiple campus jobs, multiple hours a week. And so as a result, pretty much all of my editors, the other reporters, are aggressively wealthy.
Everyone tries to appear middle class.
Yeah.
So the lower class people are trying to appear middle class, so they'll try to access wealth in whatever ways they can. And then the higher class people are trying to appear middle class too, so they'll hide certain things. But I don't know if anyone's actually good at it. I definitely have felt difference in class from the day I stepped foot on campus.
I think I know people are wealthy, but then it's the extent of their wealth when you look up how much their house costs on Zillow, and you're just oh, that's your house costs more than my whole family has ever collectively had, our entire existence.
Has being at Yale changed your understanding of your class position at all?
Yeah, my high school was a lot more homogenous than Yale, and it was definitely way more people from just the top 1% of society. I hadn't really been exposed to anything else before I went to Yale.
The high school I went to, I was on the lower end of the income contribution. And in that sense, I kind of never saw myself as part of a particularly affluent group at my high school, but then coming to Yale and being exposed to like a much broader range of incomes and backgrounds, my understanding of what means are and what resources are and what agency is has changed quite a lot.
Yale has made me not understand my own class position, because I think I like went into Yale being like, I'm like middle class, and then I came to Yale and I'm like, oh my God, I'm broke. And like now I'm leaving Yale and I'm like, I'm somewhere in between those two. But I think it is like so easy to feel a lot poorer at Yale than you actually are.
So now that you're gonna graduate and go on to be legacies of Yale, do you see yourselves in a position where you have kids someday who want to come to Yale? You might flex the power, the influence you may end up with?
I couldn't imagine myself doing that. I don't feel any ties to Yale that they need to come here in any way.
I don't want anybody's folder to be with that little star that says legacy. Like, I would be completely fine if that got taken off.
So what do you think this entire story says about the state of our country and the college admissions system?
It ain't meritocratic. I think it suggests that we should be more cognizant about where we're drawing our talent pool from, because just because it says Yale on your degree, how much does that mean? I don't know. Maybe less than you think.
Move over, soy. There's a new trendy milk in town. Oatmilk.
Turns out coffee drinkers now prefer a splash of oat milk.
Oat milk, huh?
Oat milk, yeah. Oat milk is the new almond milk.
Some people say it's giving both soy milk and almond milk a run for its money.
Whenever I think of oat, anything else that's not dairy milk, I think, is it really milk?
In case you haven't heard, milk is canceled in 2019.
Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you? Good.
Good. What can I get you?
Oat milk latte, please.
Sure.
In Brooklyn, the only milk that matters is oat milk. And the only oat milk that matters is Oatly, which showed up suddenly in 2016.
Oatly or nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
This stuff is the supreme of milk alternatives. Unless there's a hip coffee shop near you, it's gonna cost you. Big. People are paying $18 a liter to get Oatly from scalpers on the internet. The hype is real, and so is the Oatly drought.
We run out. I mean, there's weeks that we'll run out of, we'll go through our allotment of Oatly and we'll have to wait for the next shipment.
What do they tell you? They say they just can't get it?
Just can't get it. It's been a supply and demand issue.
How did this happen? Who milks an oat?
Wow, no cow.
The Swedes.
No, wow.
At the Oatly factory in Landskrona, they're struggling to keep up with international demand. Oatly was originally created to make the people of Sweden less gassy. Sweden has one of the highest per capita dairy consumption rates on the planet. So it's a really tough place to be lactose intolerant. And that's who Oatly was created for 2 decades ago. It did pretty well on the Swedish market. Oh, beard protection.
Of course.
Okay.
It's for you.
Then in 2012, Tony Pedersen took over as CEO.
Yeah.
Am I good?
That's when Oatly really took the leap from medicine milk to hype milk.
That's good.
All right. Okay.
Let's do this. This is like the filling, right? You have the paper here, and this is the barista edition?
Yeah. Tony makes things cool. He did it with Japanese food in Sweden as a restaurateur. And now he's doing it with Oatly.
This is like meeting the Wizard of Oz. This is like the freshest possible oat milk.
It is.
In the world.
This is like
right here.
That one.
That's the
like
freshest.
That one.
That's the freshest oat milk in the world.
Yes, it is. It's here.
I have to say, it really does smell like oatmeal in here.
And
what's that?
This is where the magic happens.
Oats are being milked right in that tank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's where the milking is. Exactly. The teats, yeah.
Got it.
This might shock you, but oats cannot actually be milked. The Oatly recipe relies on natural enzymes, high-pressure heat cylinders, and a lot of complicated science. The process is patented, and there's secret tech we weren't allowed to film.
So what did you know about the process of making oat milk before you became the CEO? Nothing.
Like nothing, right?
Tony is not a science guy, but he is a marketing guy. He figured out how to make a company focused on lactose intolerance into the next hot food trend. Tony refers to Oatly followers as the post-milk generation. And his vision for oat milk quickly moved it off the shelves of health food stores and into the Instagram feeds of hipsters. First in Europe, and then the United States.
I'm not from the food industry. I don't know how to run a food company. We're being unconventional in the way we work and the way we act.
What's wrong with the food industry?
Animal production is accountable for 14.5% of the carbon footprint. Food supply is one of humanity's greatest challenges. And it has to be like, we can't just improve it, it needs to be changed.
You're like the milk pirates against these...
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Or like oat punks, you know? You know?
How many like gallons of...
yes.
Or however you measure it. I'm sorry, I don't
So
mean
we
to
do, like, we're in the metrics, right? So we do like 52 million liters, like we did that 2017. We did 80 million liters this year, and we're going to double that in 2019.
160 million liters.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that's enough. I'm not sure that will fulfill the demand, but that's what we can make.
These oat punks aren't the only game in town anymore. Oatly needs to ramp up production to fulfill their own demand and stay ahead of a tidal wave of oat milk set to hit U.S. shores this year. Which brings us to another unlikely birthplace for a cool revolution. Millville, New Jersey. Best known these days as the home of all-star Los Angeles Angels center fielder Mike Trout. And now, home to Oatly's very first U.S. plant. So why Millville?
When we wanted to start our plan, it was like natural to open here. Like it was obvious for us to open on the East Coast and not anywhere else.
Have you gotten to know this area at all? Have you been to Millville much?
Not that, but you see like the sky is blue, people are nice. Can't be better, right?
Yeah. How many jobs are you going to be putting in this?
We're not sure yet. It could be anywhere between, we're hoping around 50 eventually.
Millville is used to being a factory town. Back in the 80s, it was the home to some of the largest glass factories in Jersey. When most of them closed, this town took a huge hit. So here we are. This is High Street.
Absolutely.
So when you were a kid, what was on High Street?
Everything. And every store was jumping because obviously it was the 60s and downtowns were rocking and rolling.
James Quinn was mayor of Millville for 12 years. Is it weird to come down here and see how different it is from when it was like such a busy time when you were a child?
Yeah, it is. But when I look around main streets in most communities, it's similar to this, where there's a lot of vacancy.
To make these kind of downtowns happen, what you need are people working and wanting to go out and spend money.
Right.
And that's why when some crazy Swede comes to you and says, I want to build a factory that makes a milk substitute, you go right on.
You bet. We say, hey, please come. We're thankful to have you.
Millville's most popular diner is Jim's Lunch. It's still very much a dairy and meat kind of place.
Okay, cheeseburger, everything. Double plain. Can you order the chicken sandwiches?
This is a cheeseburger with onions and gravy on it.
Yeah, special sauce. It's special sauce.
So we're pretty far away from like health food here at Jim's.
Yeah. This is Heart Attack City.
Right. And now this is the town that has this burger is now the epicenter of the new alternative milk movement.
Right, and this could offset a lot of the cholesterol with the oat milk.
What do people usually get in their coffee here?
Cream.
Black. Okay.
Or black, yeah.
Do you think that if you put oat milk on the menu, people would buy it?
When you say oat, you mean like oatmeal?
No, oat milk. It's milk made out of oats.
Oh. Maybe
It's not-
try it, possibly.
Okay.
Possibly, I mean, never know.
So I'm gonna pour a little bit of it, and you can try it.
Okay. Salut.
Bottoms up.
Not for you.
It's not bad.
I don't like it. So this is $4.50. It's a little bit more money than milk.
Right, but 100% vegan.
Uh-huh.
What's the word?
Barista edition.
What's a barista? So it's no dairy, no nuts, no gluten. Oh, so the world anymore today is definitely going healthy, you know what I mean?
So even at Jim's lunch, maybe someday soon, I'll be getting an oat milk side with my coffee.
You know what? You can have an oat milk and then I'll make you a burger.
Love it. Now we're talking. You guys aren't kidding.